Hey everyone, Christian here, and I'm going to do a video on why some palms seem to germinate their seed everywhere underneath the plant where some palms don't. And I'm going to give this royal, or these royals here, as an example. As you can see, these royals here are laden with seed. You can see it's red. It means they're ripe or dropping, or have been dropping for quite some time. There's actually a spent bract, meaning all the seeds drop down. And you can kind of go down the line and see that they've all kind of been dropping seed. However, if we go get a little close up here, there are no seedlings. There, there, and then guess what? There are none over here either. So if we come back out, you might see this quite a bit underneath royals, and it might be kind of frustrating if you want to try and say dig up a seedling or even get some seed. It can be hard because the seeds are quite small and they can bury themselves in the mulch. Now the reason that royals in general, that you won't see seedlings underneath them, where you'll see seedlings underneath a palmetto or say a Washingtonia, it's just due to the difficulty and the climatic requirements that are needed to germinate the seed. Now a few of them will germinate. It won't be like none of them will, but you would imagine with carrying thousands of seeds, you would see at least a few hundred seedlings, especially in Florida. Now this is not their native, this is not their habitat. This area, it's a little bit further south, about 80 to 100 miles, but their habitat is actually extremely swampy and shady. So they're used to germinating in kind of like dark, wet, always very moist areas. And that heat, the heat is also required. Although we do have the heat, we don't have the swampy and shady. Although it is shady right now, it's not shady most of the day here. So they actually end up drying up before they can actually create a, sorry about that, just had something crawl on me on my foot there. And because it is shady here, it is about 6 o'clock in the afternoon or evening, but the most of the day it does shine down here. So the wet, dark conditions just don't exist most of the time. And you can see this is obviously elevated from the road, and the road is elevated. It doesn't get very swampy or wet. Now, if these royals were growing over here in this kind of Brazilian pepper and pine infused area, it looks like it's kind of low, or around here. There's actually a creek back here, and you can see this Brazilian pepper love to grow in these low-lying areas. Now, there might be a few seedlings that have dropped from here and are actually growing in there, and they might emerge in a few years' time, but it's hard to tell. I'm not going to walk in there and go looking for that amongst all the great insects and animals that Florida has to offer. But it's just natural for them to grow in those conditions, and not in these. Even when you see irrigation lines on the base of these trunks, you won't find that many seedlings. Usually there has to be the shade and the moisture. So those swampy areas don't get very much sun any time of the day, and it really helps out. And although you'd say, oh well, royals do grow in full sun, and they do, and they actually prefer to grow in full, they emerge in a full sun at a fairly early age. Just when they germinate, they're used to not being dried out at all. So the sun and the elevated area here just creates a condition that you wouldn't be able to really germinate royals like that. That's why I always tell people when they're germinating royals, make sure it's very swampy and shady. So they like to stick to their habitat, just like in the Everglades, in those little pine forests that they do grow in. It is it's very dense forest, and they do grow very well there. So other palms like Washingtonias, if you think about them, there aren't actually any out here. Couldn't find any Washingtonias next to royals that I could kind of discuss, but I think everyone here that watches the vlog knows what Washingtonias look like. And essentially, you have a palm growing upward, and it loves full sun, and sorry, I just want to give that biker's privacy. So like I said, Washingtonia is growing in full sun in habitat. They're growing in Baja California Norte, and it's a semi-arid desert region. And so when they drop on the ground, like when the little seeds drop on the ground here in Florida, they actually have a very, this is raised up, and it has a little bit of mulch, which does help retain a little bit of moisture. And they really love baking in that full sun. So that's where these two palms kind of differ, even though both of them will grow fairly tall, have a small seed, and will put out a bunch of seeds. Only one of them really likes to germinate in this sort of climate, and so that's why you'll see so many Washingtonias popping up everywhere. They'll take full sun at a young age because in habitat they actually they take full sun from the first leaf most of the time. So anyway, I wanted to kind of point that out. You might see why certain palms will germinate naturally, especially native stuff. Palmettos will germinate just as well because they do grow out in open forests and shade as well. As you can see the palmettos here, and there's plenty in all these little forests. You just can't see them, but they're used to germinating in open grasslands and in forests, but they do germinate on these raised beds. But the royals do not because of their habitat, what they're used to. So I hope that was helpful in understanding why you may not see, just because a palm has tons of seed on it doesn't mean it's all going to germinate down below. So hope this video was informative and helpful. If it was, give it a thumbs up. If you guys are new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification button. And I go live often, and you'll get notifications. You get to join in our live chat. And if you have any questions about germinating seed that maybe has fallen from a tree down below, or why it's not germinating, leave it down below. I'll get to as many of them as I can. And thank you for watching.